we're talking about, right, that journey of like, what do you do when you don't know what your purpose is and you feel like you're supposed to know that before you do anything? You don't have to know. And please don't hold yourself back from conversations because you're thinking that you have to know before you reach out to people or before you do anything at all. Hello and welcome to the Unlock Lab. I'm your host, Tosca DiMatteo, and I am so glad you're here. I'm thrilled to talk to you in this episode about what to do if it feels too overwhelming to figure out your purpose. This is a huge question, and I think it's what gets in the way of people taking forward movement action because it gets overwhelming. But before I dive deep into this, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Tosca DiMatteo, the founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting, and the work that I do is help people with their career transformation. I do this for folks in transition who maybe lost their way, can't remember who they are, or they just feel stuck. So welcome. And if you want to learn more about the work that I do, please visit coachtosca.com. All right, jumping in. I'm really excited to talk about this on the back of a few episodes around what to do when you're in transition and to not touch your resume first. The episode after that, I talked about how to approach your resume in a way that I think is different than how people tend to approach it. And kind of on the back of that, a big part of how you approach your resume also is about understanding where you want to go. And sometimes that can feel really overwhelming because we don't always know where we're going. And I think it's easy to be hard on ourselves about this because I think we can compare ourselves to other people's journeys, other people who seem to have a real clarity around what they're going after and what they want next. And I think that's also a story that we tell ourselves because I think the vast majority of people are all figuring it out. And what you may see in social media and what you may hear in conversation is a bit of a distorted view of people's lack of confidence in what they want or clarity in what they want. So I just want to start off by saying that because I think it's important. It's important not to compare to where we think we should be in having the clarity in our own life. I mean, heck, if I'm any example of this, when I quit my last corporate job, I didn't know what I was doing next. All I knew is I wanted to become a certified coach, and I had no idea if I was going to go back into a corporate job, if I was going to, who knows, travel the world, if I was going to start my own business. I had no idea. And what I told people was, yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I know I want to become a coach. And, I try to be transparent because I didn't want people to think I had it all figured out. And I think that that's really important too in your journey of figuring out what's next is we can actually keep ourselves hidden because we're afraid of those questions. Hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you looking for? And I think the more that we can just be honest with ourselves and authentic and transparent, the more the magic can come in. Because the minute that you can say, you know what, I really don't know, but here is what I do know, or I'm figuring it out, like it's just refreshing for people because more often than not, they're going to totally resonate with that. So I went off on a little tangent there, but we're talking about, right, that journey of like, what do you do when you don't know what your purpose is and you feel like you're supposed to know that before you do anything? And my advice is like, you don't have to know. And please don't hold yourself back from conversations because you're thinking that you have to know before you reach out to people or before you do anything at all. I think that when we ask ourselves these really big questions like, what's my why? And hey, love Simon Sinek. He's doing great things for the world, but that's a really big question. And that can feel daunting in and of itself. When we ask ourselves, what's my purpose or what's the legacy I want to leave? those are big questions. And look, if you feel like you have clarity on that, awesome. And you may also want to ask yourself some smaller questions that may lead you in a different direction than you expected. And if you feel overwhelmed by these bigger questions, then absolutely start with smaller questions to get you on the path. I think life is constantly unfolding. And even when we think we know what the destination is, I think life usually has something else planned for us that's even better. I think we have to be careful about even having a really, really pinpoint view of what our destination is. I love supporting folks to be expansive in what they think is possible because then we become more open to what comes our way because we may think it's supposed to look another way and actually there's something else way better out there. So part of being able to do that is being expansive around what it is you want and looking at that from a different perspective. So, what do I mean by like different perspective? So, one of the things that I ask my clients a lot is, well, who do you want to be when you show up into a room? And that to me is extremely helpful in that pursuit of what's next or where you're going. Who do you want to be? That provides a lot of insight into what matters to you. And you can then take that to ask yourself more questions. What are the problems that I love to talk about that are happening in the world? What are the conversations that I like to be a part of? What is tugging at my heart right now to pursue? I really do believe that the journey is an unfolding. And when we don't think we have the answer to like, where exactly am I going? Then just honor that immediate next step that feels like it lights you up and gets you excited. You will discover what you want to go after in that process. And you know what? The timeline of that is anybody's guess. So I think the other piece of this is to not be attached to a timeline because that timeline is likely not exactly what you want it to be. I mean, take a look at even, some of my most recent career shifts, right? Like I started a coaching and consulting business and I've expanded into speaking and actually going after speaking opportunities is a big part of what I want to be doing. I didn't know that 5 years ago. And I certainly didn't honor it until pretty recently because I had inner critics getting in the way, telling me that I was crazy for wanting to get out there and speak to bigger audiences. So I hope this is kind of inspiring you to know that if you don't feel like you know what your purpose is or what your why is or what your actual destination is, you are in good company, my friend. It's really hard nut to crack. And I think a lot of people are figuring it out. So give yourself some grace and look at what's immediately in front of you that's interesting, that makes you excited to wake up in the morning. Some of that can just be paying attention to the kind of content you consume and what are the things that you find yourself talking about a lot. We can just ask ourselves these more bite sized questions and allow those puzzle pieces to just be what they are. And when you're ready to see what that picture creates, you will know it. And you can't force it and you can't pressure it. You just have to allow for that picture to form. And that is really uncomfortable for most people. We want to see the picture so that we know exactly where to lay the puzzle pieces down, but it doesn't always work out that way. So if you are holding yourself back from having conversations with people because you're not sure what you want to ask them, you're not sure where you're going, please know that it is those conversations that will help you in the quote unquote figuring it out. Those are the conversations that will enlighten you, that will plant new seeds, that will give you exposure to things that you weren't even expecting. And actually, one of the biggest networking pieces of advice I have is for you to really look way in the outer skirts of your circles, because those are the people that are going to have different views, opinions, and experiences than you. And if we're only talking to people really close in with our network, we're probably going to get a lot of the same thoughts and same views. So that more that you can just put yourself out there to folks that do stuff that you have no idea about or are in circles that you're not in, those can be the most helpful in getting some new information for you to kind of use to say what interests me and what doesn't. What's important is that your North Star can be just about anything. And that's a concept that I just want to introduce to you or maybe remind you of. That if you consider that what's really helpful is having a North Star and having a general compass direction, that's enough. You don't have to know the exact latitude and longitude of where you want to land. If your North Star, for example, is I want to be in a warm weather climate, that is just the most important to me. Let that be enough for you to take the next step into discovering more about what that looks like for you. Your North Star might be that you want to feel comfortable in your own skin in the place that you go to work every day. Let that be enough and continue to explore what that means to you, what your values are, what's important to you, and go from there. Your compass is directionally sound. Trust that. And know that with each step, you're going to get more information. You're going to get more puzzle pieces to see what that picture can actually look like. And it's okay if you don't know what that picture looks like right now. In fact, if you knew what it looked like, that might mean you're not thinking expansively about what else is possible and you're keeping yourself limited. So consider it a good thing that you're not sure, because that means everything is possible. And stay open to that. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what you discover in this journey. And if you want some support around taking those steps and being comfortable in the not knowing and finding some excitement in the uncertainty, please reach out. This is the work that I do. It's what I love to support people with. You can find out more at toscadimatteo.com. So until next time, it's been a joy being with you. I hope you have an awesome day, whatever today looks like. And I'll see you next time in the Unlock Lab. Ciao for now.